Hello everyone and welcome back to Nagash, and in this video we're going to continue my long in-depth series on the Soulblight Gravelords, and this is the first one where we're actually going to be looking at the War Scrolls. And I have counted and I believe there are 37 War Scrolls in the Soulblight Gravelords army to choose from when you come to building your army now. It's absolutely enormous. So those who watched my army series in the past, what you'll know is I tend to start with the weaker, more boring units, and then we save the more interesting units like unique heroes and monsters towards the end. So we're starting with the bottom of the bottom. That doesn't mean they haven't got a place in the army, and they can certainly be pretty powerful if the enemy underestimates them, and that is going to be the Deadwalkers, which essentially just means your zombie type units in your Soulblight Gravelord army. So we'll be looking at Deadwalker zombies, direwolves, fell bats, corpse cart, and then also the necromancer. And yes, he's not technically a Deadwalker, but I was kind of trying to figure out what video to put him in, and this one makes the most sense because he's also got a command ability to help out your Deadwalkers or your Death Rattle if you would like to. And of course, if you've got any thoughts about what we're covering in this video, let me know down in the comment section below. Tell me how you like to use your Deadwalkers in your games you've been having, any experience with them, or if you are brand new to them, any questions you've got for me, make sure to put those down in the comments, or if you think I've missed something, always useful to know. Okay, so starting with the Deadwalker zombies. Shambling and groaning, flesh sagging off yellow bones, a single zombie is a disconcerting sight, and a horde of them can unnerve even the most steadfast warriors. Individually, a zombie is a clumsy and slow adversary, but in bulk they become a significant threat. Bludgeoning aside enemy defences, they lash out with filthy fingernails and crude improvised weapons, heedless of their losses. So that's a little bit of the lore behind them, essentially zombies that we all love and hate. So going on to firstly looking at its will stats, so it's got a movement of 4 inches, save of 6+, control of 1, and health of 1. So obviously you're looking at that and you're not particularly amazed, but these are the most basic unit in this army, so just to bear that in mind. So it's never going to be amazing. But there are ways to improve this stats. So with the movement of 4+, obviously you can do things like run. But of course, if you really want to lean into your Deadwalkers and you go for the Death Stench Drove as your battle formation, remember they get to make that extra piling move a turn. So that means that you get your normal move, obviously a 4. You get your piling move there, which is an extra 3 from normal, making it a 7. And then you get your piling move from that ability by going for that battle formation, making them being able to move 10. And then there are other things you can do, like the Necromancer later on can make them, attack again, essentially, which we'll get into in a bit, which give them another 3-inch movement, which could be these guys moving up to 13 inches. And obviously piling moves are not as great as a normal move because it's not a case of you can maybe go exactly in the direction you want to. However, it does show that they are faster than they first appear. And a control score of 1, standard isn't it with infantry and for a lot of models in this game, but you're going to have a lot of zombies. Your 6+ save, not fantastic obviously. I mean, to be honest, just surprised they've got a save, so you take that as you will, as they are just zombies, but they do also have a 6+ ward save. And then if you go and take a Coven Throne in your army, you can give them a 5+ ward save if they are within range of your Coven Throne, which I think was wholly within 6 inches, but we'll get into that when we review the Coven Throne in a future video. So there's lots of ways you can go about boosting this. Okay, then going on to the melee weapons, they have crude weapon or infectious bite. So this is 1 attack, finds the hit, force to win, no rend, 1 damage. Yep, not a exciting attack characteristic there, but you can't really expect anything more. But they do have an ability, and this is a passive ability, so it will be in effect all the time. Mindless ferocity. Heedless of pain and knowing nothing of fear, Deadwalker zombies are relentless in their efforts to slay the foe, and they will continue to hack, claw and bite even as they meet their final end. The effect Each time a model in this unit is slain by a combat attack, and that model was in combat with the attacking unit, roll a dice. On a 6+, inflict 1 mortal wound on the attacking unit after the fight ability has been resolved. So that's nice. It means that you can have your block of Deadwalker zombies, and when the enemy charges them and slays them and slashes them and smashes them, you're not going to be too sad because you get the chance of doing damage back to the enemy. Again, it's on a 6+, so it's not that fantastic. However, it's still nice to have an ability because, to be honest, this is a unit where you can imagine them just being exactly bare bones with no ability at all. They did used to, like in previous editions, have ways to essentially turn the enemy into zombies, which I really did like, because I feel like obviously the biggest thing when it comes to zombies, right, is the infection they spread. And you think, well, maybe that's not a thing in Age of Sigmar, the whole, spreading of a infection. But I do remind you the weapons are crude weapons or infectious bites. So I'm a little bit disappointed that you don't get that come through. Something to mention though is that obviously the minimum sized unit for this is 20 models. So once it's reinforced, it is 40 models. And obviously where you can only reinforce things once in Age of Sigmar, being able to make this a unit of 40 models, there's not many other units in the game that can meet or beat that amount of models in a unit. So for objective play, very, very good. Going on to the keywords, they've got infantry and then ward bracket 6+, that's a 6+ ward save, and then death, Soulblight Gravelords and Deadwalkers. So the most important one there just being the Deadwalkers one, because obviously this is within the Soulblight Gravelord Army. And yeah, I feel like they do a role. At the end of the day, I think I've said in previous videos, I'm more of a death rattle guy. I've always been more of a skeleton guy than a zombie. The only zombies I've ever owned are ones that I used as diorama pieces for a big Terrorgeist base I made once. And then also the zombies you get from Warhammer Quest Curse City. I've never bought any more zombies other than that because I've always loved my skeletons. Because I've always thought, pay a bit more points and have some skeletons that are a bit more tougher, better save, better attacks. That's how I looked at it. But this is good as just a big block. Because at the end of the day, when I first was choosing if I want to go, skeletons or zombies, you could basically make your unit of skeletons, I'm pretty sure, the same size as a unit of zombies. But now, you can't do that. So if you want your big, shambling horde moving forward, your Deadwalker zombies are going to be the best ones for sheer numbers. Okay, so that is the Deadwalker zombies. Then going on to a unit that I do like and I've run so many times is going to be the Direwolves, my favourite doggos of Age of Sigmar. So, a little bit about the lore of them. It is said that to hear a direwolf's howl is to be damned. These lupine undead are tireless hunters, and when they finally run their prey to ground, their powerful jaws ensure that the kill comes swiftly indeed. So, looking at their wheel stats, they've got a 10-inch movement, nice, fast, a hell of a lot faster for the Deadwalker zombies. And something to mention as well is that there's a lot of things in this book that have a movement of 4 inches. Obviously, there's things that are faster, but they tend to be more sort of special units or characters. So, having a unit that can move 10 inches, that's a fairly decent size unit. You can make this a unit of 20 models. 10-inch movement, pretty good. 5+ save, so that's nice, so better than the zombies. And then control score of 1, which isn't great, but it's to be expected because they are a beast. And then they've got a health characteristic of 2 as well, which has always been the case for them. So going on to the melee weapons, you've got Rotting Fangs and Claws, and it's a companion attack. So this is 2 attacks, force to hit, freeze to wound, no rend, 1 damage. It's okay. Freeze to wound is nice. I could easily see this being 4s and 4s. So, yeah, it's okay. These are not there for their damage prowess. They are there to be a fast-moving skirmishing unit or a unit you may use to bubble wrap your own units and screen your army. So that is what they are there for, rather than you know, charging the enemy and doing damage. But it's an okay attack. Yeah, it's not too bad. Going on to the abilities, they've got passive beast. So effect, this unit has the maximum control score of 1. So yeah, like we quickly mentioned before, the control score, these are not, although they're skirmishing and they're kind of there for smarter play, they're there for like tactical play, but they're not really there for objective play, if you understand what I mean with the difference there. They're not there for like their prowess of hold an objective, but they will be there for their abilities to score some of the more interesting sort of battle tactics. You know, if you need to be in the right place and the right time, these guys are fast enough to hopefully be able to do it compared to a lot of other things in your army. So going on to the other ability they've got is on the hunt. So unlike most undead, direwolves have lost almost none of their swiftness they possessed in life, and are forever hungry for warm flesh. So yeah, basically what I just said, but in the lore term. Then going on to the effect, this unit can use a run ability and still use charge abilities later in the turn. So essentially you can run and charge. Really, really nice. So that means that this unit, if you wanted to use a command point to make them be able to just run a flat 6, they're moving 16 inches and then charging. So potentially 28-inch movement. Obviously, you have to be very lucky, but if you really need to get these guys somewhere just so they could lock down a battle tactic or an objective, again, not great for objective play, like I said, but if you really needed them to get to somewhere on the board, they have a good chance to do it. You can make them move 16 inches and then give them that, you know, trying to get a 12-inch charge, make it 28, but you could get always a re-roll on that charge. So you're probably almost guaranteed to get like a 7-inch charge. So these guys could be fairly reliably moving 23 inches a turn if you spend the command points. Is it worth spending the command points? You would only do that if the situation required it, but not a bad unit, a fast unit at that as well. And then looking at their keywords, they've got Beast Champion brackets 1/10. So 1 in 10 models in this unit can be a champion. And then they've got Ward bracket 6+. They've got that 6-up ward save, which is good considering they've got a 5-up save to start with, and then the 6-up. And then, like I said, if you put them in range of that Coven Throne, making it a 5-up, so they can have a 5-up save followed by a 5-up ward save. So pretty survivable for a unit that, you know, can die, can come back to life, which means that the enemy's not going to chuck much at them to try and kill them. They're probably not going to get rid of them. And then the rest of the keywords they've got is a Death, Soulblight Gravelords and Deadwalkers. Obviously the main one there being Deadwalkers. So yeah, like I said, I really like direwolves. I don't actually have any of the newer models. All my ones are of the old chunky ones that are definitely a lot uglier than the new models, but I have a nostalgic charm for them. But I would love to get the new direwolf models. I say new, they came out about 3 years ago. But I would love to get them because I think they've just got so much character. You get a box of 10 models, obviously, and they are all individual sculpts. It's not like there's 5 sculpts and they just repeat themselves for the next 5. Really, really nice models. And definitely one of the first things I want to get after I've built and painted up my Lances of the Crimson Keep and Battleforce box. So the direwolves are going to cost you 150 points, and obviously with the Deadwalker zombies costing you 140 points, they are 10 points more, and you get 10 models for that compared to the Deadwalker zombies of 20 models. But they are the same health, because the direwolves are 2 health per model, and the Deadwalker zombies were 1 health per model. But they do different roles, so that's like a little bit of a comparison for you, but I can't just say one's better than the other one, because they do different roles. Like I said to you, I prefer skeletons over zombies. So I would, or how I always have been playing it, is I would have skeletons as my infantry, and then the direwolves are running around going where they need to go or screening what they need to screen, etc. They weren't trying to do the same job of the zombies. So yeah, I think for 150 points, pretty damn good there. You're probably going to get a lot of mileage out of them. Okay, so we were talking about the direwolves being quite a fast unit for the Soulblight Gravelords, But now let's talk about one of the fastest units it has in its arsenal. And this is also a Deadwalker, and it's going to of course be the Fellbats. So a little bit of lore behind them. It's the leather-winged monstrosities, bloated on blood and necrotic sorcery. Fellbats haunt the cursed forests and battlefields of the realms. Each is large enough to pluck a rider from the saddle and carry them off into the skies, and their dagger-length canine teeth are so sharp that they can puncture solid metal. Pretty ferocious bats then you don't want to come across in those forests. So they've got a movement of 12, 6+ save, control of 1, and 3 health. I think obviously the nice thing about that is that 12-inch movement. Soulblight Gravelords, that's really nice to have. This is one of your most movable, fast units, being able to fly, being able to get to where they need to. Not going to get bogged down as much as the direwolves are, but the direwolves, like I said, can be used more of a screen than these guys. But you're going to get a lot of use out of your Fellbats, and that's why I think they're always quite good just to take one unit of them. Because, like I say, Soulblight Gravelords are not the best at movement in the game. So having that flying at 12-inch moving unit is kind of essential, dependent, unless you're really building to a certain list. I always think they're great to have in your army for utility. And the free health is nice as well, just keeps them surviving a bit longer because they've only got that 6+ save. Again, they are a unit you will be able to bring back to life, being Deadwalkers. So going on to their melee weapons. So this is going to be the Fangs, which is a companion weapon. So you've got 3 attacks, force to hit, force to wound, no rend, 2 damage. I could have easily expected that to be 1 damage. So 2 damage is nice. Good to have that. Again, force to hit, force to wound. Not bad, but nothing too excited about that. But the 3 attacks, so hopefully you should get a few of these through. Of course, if you're going against, 3+ armor saves, etc., don't really expect anything out of this. However, if you're sending them against a 3+ armor save for some reason that's not about making sure you get a battle tactic or secure an objective, that's not how these guys should be played at all. So just bear that in mind. Then going on to the next ability they've got, and it's a passive one, so that's always good. So this is Fleet and Fell. Borne swiftly upon huge tattered wings, Fellbats are able to swoop down upon and break away from their prey with impunity, their frenzied flapping making it difficult to pin them down. Effect: this unit can use charge abilities even if it used a retreat ability in the same turn. In addition, no mortal damage is inflicted on this unit by retreat abilities. Okay, that's brilliant, because obviously if you retreated this unit, there's a good chance that you could lose a model in this unit, and you're probably just taking units of 3 of these, so you don't want to lose too many models. And it just really, again, this is purposely built for them to be even better at moving. It's the same reason why they gave direwolves that on the hunt ability, so they could run in charge. They've given, I like it's not the same as the direwolf ability, because that would just feel like a complete copy and paste. But instead, it's actually retreat and charge, which is really, really good, because you don't want to get these guys bogged down in combat. If they're getting bogged down in combat, unless you try to tie up the enemy, which you're not going to tie them up for very long with that 6+ save, they are in trouble. So retreating them to be able to then move them to the other side of the board where they're needed is essential, and it really helps them achieve the job which they are there to do. And of course, 6+ save, cover thrown, 5+ save, but these guys probably won't benefit from that if you take a cover thrown, because they're probably off doing their own thing. Okay, going on to keywords, they've got Beast, Fly, Ward 6+, and then Death, Soulblight Gravelords, and Deadwalkers. Again, Deadwalkers being the main part there. And I'm very excited to work on some of these, because like I mentioned, where I've got that Battle Force box, you get 3 of the Fellbats in there. And again, Fellbats, they're not the best thing in the army. They are a fairly basic unit, but like a utility piece, like I mentioned. However, I think their models are some of the best models in the entire army, and some of my favourite models in the game. I just really love that sort of bat aesthetic, and it's one of the things that draws you to vampires in the first place. And I like it that the Fellbats aren't looking like they're half dead, or like kind of what a Terrorgeist looks like. I'm glad they've got, you know, more flesh and bone on them to just show that they are basically still a living creature despite being in the Soulblight Gravelords army. And I do currently have some Felbats that I've been using in many games, but they are the older model. And like I say, I've got a lot of nostalgia for the older models. The newer models are definitely a hell of a lot better, and I reckon a hell of a lot bigger as well. Right, so that's the Deadwalker zombies, the direwolves and Felbats done. So now that is kind of the units for the Deadwalkers, and of course, technically, there's another unit, we're going to get into it, and then the Necromancer on top, but they are the multi-model units that you will see as the Deadwalkers, and the ones that you're going to benefit the most from bringing units back to the board or using Deathly Invocation. So going on to one that's always kind of been a staple in a Soulblight Gravelords army, / Legions of the Nagash / a Death Grand Alliance army, and always in a heavy Deadwalker army is of course going to be the Corpse Cart. But what exactly is a Corpse Cart if you can't imagine from the picture and the description of the name? Let's go into the lore. Across those territories ruled by the Midnight Aristocracy, travel macabre conveyances filled with the brim with decomposing flesh drawn by groaning cadavers. These are the Corpse Carts, unspeakable devices that function as locus points for deathless magic and imbuing nearby undead with terrible vigour and might. Essentially, if you see Monty Python, The Quest of the Holy Grail, bring out your dead. Okay, going on to their will stats, again, a movement of a 4 inch, and we've just been spoiled by the direwolf movement, the Felbat movement, so get back to getting used to the 4 inch movement. A 6+ save, control score of 2, and a health of 7, so a nice amount of health there, but the 6+ save is really going to hurt it, and again, it's not moving anywhere fast, but it will be able to keep up with your Deadwalker zombies if you don't do any of those extra movement shenanigans I mentioned. And then the control score of 2, yeah, I mean, it's better than 1, but you would be really disappointed if it was 1, so that is what it is. Probably the best thing about that is it's got health 7. But you would also expect to have health 7 because it's a chariot-sized model. And then going on to its melee weapons, you've got the Corpse Master weapon. So this is 3 attacks, 4s and 4s, no rend 1 damage. And then you've got the Zombies Rusty Blades, which is companion attack, which is 2d6, force to hit, force to wound, no rend 1 damage. Again, with Corpse Carts, they're not there to do the damage. They are very much a supportive piece. You may be lucky and spike the 2d6 to attacks for the zombies, and at least it hits on a 4 and not a 5, which is quite nice, surprisingly. And again, I've had a Corpse Cart in combat, and I sort of, you know, attacked a enemy unit of 5 basic infantry on an objective, and it managed to kill them. So, like, it can do alright, but literally, in the circumstances are, you're very lucky, your dice spike, and the enemy hasn't hit you first. Because the enemy attacks you first, you put your Corpse Cart away in your army case. So going on to the abilities it's got, you've got a passive ability, and it's its only ability, which is the Locus of Undeath. Corpse Carts are wellsprings of necromantic power that bestows greater vigour upon the resurrected corpses of the freshly slain. Effect: melee weapons used by other friendly Deadwalker units have a crit auto wound while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So that's the reason why this thing doesn't move very fast, because it's meant to be surrounded by your Deadwalker zombies. Yes, this would benefit Felbats as well, and it would benefit dire wolves. However, they're off running around doing their own thing, or flapping around. So the Corpse Cart is designed to be there with the zombies themselves. And that takes your zombies that are hitting on 5s, which again, it's not good, but you may do an attack on these just to make sure it hits on 4s. But it means a lot of your successful hits are now going to just do auto wounding as well, because the only successful ones you're going to get need to be 5s and 6s anyway. So yeah, that's a good ability, and I like it that it's, you know, not on a 2-up or something. It's just a passive ability to get that 4-up. So yeah, it's okay. Again, you've really got to value what you're building your army into and how much value you're going to get from this unit. Because this unit is going to cost you 70 points, which, again, the Fellbats are 90 points. So it's 20 points less than a Fellbat unit or 3, which may be more useful as going around doing utility. But if you are taking 1 or 2 blocks of Deadwalker zombies and you're going to plant this in the middle of it, you'll probably get your 70 points worth of use of it if you're really going to build into your zombies. And the keywords it's got is War Machine, Ward 6+, so it's got a 6-up ward save again, like basically everything in this book. You're going to get bored of me saying that at the end. And then the keywords it's also got are Death, Soulblight Gravelords, and Deadwalkers. Again, Deadwalkers there being the main thing. So, you know, if you had a big block of zombies and using the Coven Throne to give them a 5+ ward save, this guy who's going to be next to the Coven Throne to also give his buff to your block of 40 zombies is also going to have a 5-up ward save. So, yeah, the Corpse Cart, it started off as always being just something that benefited your death army in general, like by giving like +1 to casting or making the enemy like -1 to cast. And then it leaned into be more Deadwalker zombie focused in terms of benefiting them. And now it's kind of like exclusively for them. Like obviously to the point where it goes without saying, if you're not taking a heavy Deadwalker army, leave your Corpse Cart at home. So yeah, that is the 4 Deadwalker units that are in the Soulblight Gravelords, being the zombies, the direwolves, the Fellbats, and the Corpse Cart. And now we're going to add in the additional one in this video, which is going to be the Necromancer, because there's basically a Necromancer on the back of the Corpse Cart, even though he's called a Corpse Master. So his best mate is the Necromancer, which we're going to look at now. And I did think about, you know, saving that in a video with the Mortis engine, but I want to do that with the Coven Throne and stuff. So, like I say, we'll do the Necromancer now, as he does add something to your Deadwalkers in a couple of ways. So, the Necromancer. What is a Necromancer in Age of Sigmar? Well, you're about to find out. At first glance, one might number a Necromancer amongst the dead. Their faces are shallow and their limbs withered, but a visage of life still glints in their eyes, though it is all but smothered by morbid arcana. Even as they are corrupted by the energies, a Necromancer wields them to bolster the legions of Nagash and place endless curses on the foe, sapping them of vitality with the hunger of the Shyish Nidra. So, going on to its will stats, we've got a 5-inch movement, a 6+ save, control of 2, and a health of 5. So for a model this size, health 5 is going to be expected. And he's got a control of 2, which is normal for a model of a hero of this size. 6+ save, he's going to die pretty quickly. And the movement of 5, because remember, he is not dead, and that's why he's got an extra inch on his movement. So he has got a weapon, and it's called the Mortis Staff. This is 3 attacks, force to hit, force to wound, 1 rend, 2 damage. So a fairly similar sort of, you know, wizard staff attack, which, if he gets stuck into a bother, can maybe get him out of it if he doesn't get attacked first. Look, the Necromancer is nothing to write home about in its combat prowess. However, my Necromancer was once charged by a Mighty Lord of Khorne. The guy with the Mighty Lord of Khorne, a good friend of mine, he thought, you know what, my Mighty Lord of Khorne's fine. I'll save the combat for later and I'll attack with something else first. Then my Necromancer attacked his Mighty Lord of Khorne and killed the bastard, which means a Necromancer is more mightier in combat than a Mighty Lord of Khorne. Again, against the same person. When we had a game once, the Necromancer, I think, killed something like 9 Blood Reavers when he got surrounded. So they can fight their way out of a combat. I've seen it several times, unfortunately always against the same opponent, which I'm sure he was very frustrated about. So, yeah, just don't let that happen, though. Just look at it as like, oh no, my Necromancer's going to die. Oh, that surprised me. He actually managed to survive that. Again, every time I tell you a story like this, the Necromancer did eventually die. He just didn't die in the first round of attacks. Anyway, I digress. On to his passive abilities. You've got undead minions. Necromancers are obsessed with staving off death and will sacrifice any number of the resurrected servants to protect themselves. Effect: while this unit is within the combat range of a friendly death rattle or Deadwalker unit, this unit has a ward of a 4+. Each time you make a successful ward roll for this unit, allocate 1 damage point to a friendly death rattle or Deadwalker unit within this unit's combat range after the damage sequence for this unit has been resolved. Ward rolls cannot be made for those damage points. Okay, really good. This guy isn't survivable. We just talked about that. Now he has a 4-up ward save if he's surrounded by Deadwalkers, which he's going to be, because if you're already going Deadwalker heavy and you're building yourself a little moving castle with your corpse cart in the middle of it, maybe a coven throne, you're going to have this guy there as well for his command ability we're going to read in a second. And if that guy is there, he's got a 4-up ward save, which means out of all the damage that is chucked to this guy, he's going to ignore more than 50% of it, because he's obviously got that 6-up save first, but all the damage that gets through that save he's going to ignore 50%, which is pretty nice. Again, you know, 5 health, the enemy chucks 20 damage at him, he's not going to survive very well, but at the end of the day, why is the enemy chucking 20 damage at your Necromancer? You're probably doing quite well because they didn't chuck the damage at something else. Okay, so that's very much about the Necromancer being very self-centered and how he tries to not die and let everyone else die. What does he add to the actual army rather than just being a self-centered bastard? You've got Van Hale's Dance Macabre. Now this is an ability that used to be a spell that has always been part of the Necromancer in Age of Sigmar. And as I didn't play Fantasy, but I imagine it was his spell in Fantasy as well. And it has always been the reason you take him. So let's see what it does now. The undead are filled with magical energy that causes them to jerk forward and attack with tireless and unnatural speed. So pick a friendly death rattle or Deadwalker unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Effect: roll a dice on a 3+. The target can use 2 fight abilities this phase after the first is used. However, the target has strike last for the rest of the turn. Okay, so it's a really good ability. Being able to make something fight twice, you know, your block of 40 zombies attacking twice, there's a fairly good chance to make them all attack, or let's say at least 30, normally 30 attacks. Now you'll be making 60, which is pretty nice. Again, it's the strike last, so it's the whole like, oh, okay, I'm going to attack you because it's my turn. I choose them to attack as one of my first activations. Cool. They will be able to attack you later as well, but I've got to wait until you do all of your stuff basically, which means the enemy could hit you back and you could have a significant less amount of zombies to attack for the second time around. But the zombies do have the you kill me on a 6-up, you take a mortal wound thing, and plus with that battle formation that really benefits the zombies as well, you can do more and more wounds there. So yeah, it's a nice ability. Again, for me, like I say, I'm very much more into my death rattle, and that's why I like the Necromancer, because he doesn't just benefit, you know, Deadwalkers or death rattle, he benefits both of them. But what I don't like about that ability is it's on a 3-up. Like, you've already spent a command point for it. Why do you have to then do it on a 3-up? Again, if it was like a 2-up, I wouldn't mind as much. But a 3-up, really, really annoying. You spend that command point, and then a further time you're not going to get this off, which is sad. But I know that this would be really good on things like Grave Guard or Barrow Guard, as I should always remember to keep calling them, as they're crazy. You know, 2 attacks each, 6 is doing mortal wounds. With this, just doubling that, it takes them a unit of 20 maybe. You could slaughter about half of the mortal realms with that. So I do think he's good. It just depends how you want to build your list. Again, you know, being 140 points, it really depends on how you're building your list. If you're taking a very vampire heavy army, your Necromancer's going to add a bugger all. Yeah, he's a wizard, but your vampires are also wizards, so why'd you take this guy if you haven't really got much Death Rattle or Deadwalkers to make good use out of him? So it depends on how you want to build your army, but if you want to go one of the two ways of building your army, of being Deadwalkers or Death Rattle, he helps both of them really well, and they also help him really well for that 4+ ward save. Then going on to keywords, we've got hero, wizard, bracket 1, so a level 1 wizard, so he can cast a 1 spell a turn, and then you've got infantry, ward 6+, so that's 6 up ward save, death, Soulblight Gravelords. So notice there he hasn't got Deadwalker keywords or anything, but we knew that before we went into it. So just your basic sort of wizard caster, but he's got that command ability, which is a really nice touch. I just don't like the 3+. Like, what? Why? Would it be too powerful? Maybe they are just focusing on things like if you put it on Baronites and, or like for their charge, you know, they get their charge off, and being able to attack twice maybe be too powerful. Or the Barrel Guard is just, they're really good, you know, 2 attacks, freeze and freeze, 1 rend, 1 damage, and then they get crit mortals for those 6s to hit, and then doing that twice, you know, a unit of 20 of them, that's 40 attacks, doing it twice in a turn, 80 attacks potentially if you're lucky, and that's just if the enemy hasn't hit your back, because if the enemy hasn't hit your back, your range will be like, you know, 3 inches for combat, which everything is now in Age Sigmar. You've only got a unit of 20, so they should hopefully all be able to attack, because the 3-inch range is pretty damn big. So that actually brings us to the end of today's video. So that's quite nice. When we go into these War Scroll videos, again, some will be longer than others and some will be a bit shorter like this one. I say a bit shorter, we'll probably come up to about 40 minutes now, but if you know how long my videos can be, you'll know that this wasn't one of the longest one. And again, like I say, I'm in no rush when I do these videos. I like to think about everything that comes to my mind, leaving no stone unturned, because I know some people when they review stuff, and this is why one of the reasons why I started doing these long in-depth series ages ago, is they'll just go through a book and they'll just tell you that's good, that's bad, that's good, that's bad. Which again, is very useful, especially for competitively. You want to know what's good, you want to know what's bad. But a lot of the time, people sort of get into armies by buying them, you know, maybe secondhand, and they've got a bunch of models and they're thinking, how can they use these models? Or they'll buy a box set, and some of the models in the box set might not be the most competitiveness. So being told that, yeah, just don't take that, that's rubbish, that's shit, it's going to make the person maybe not even want to bloody build the model, which again you could say is a better use of their time. But at the end of the day, most people are not playing in tournaments, so it's important to look at everything in the army. But with that, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you're listening at this point, I imagine you have done, as you managed to get through to the end of it. And if you did, please smash that like button, as that does really help us here on YouTube. And I noticed you guys have been liking a lot of the videos I've been putting up lately as I've been getting back into this, so thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for your lovely comments as well. It's been really good. And let me know your thoughts on the Deadwalkers down below in the comments. Do you like running them? Are you thinking about running them? Do you prefer to run Death Rattle over them? Let me know that. And if you think I've forgotten anything or you want to add anything to the conversation, put it in the comments as well. As like I say, we're all here to learn, and I'm very interested to hear how you guys use your Deadwalkers. Like I say, it's not an army I really build into. I sort of just take dire walls as an extra, or Fellbats as an extra. So with that, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying this long in-depth army series of the Soulblight Gravelords. The next video we're going to do is probably going to be about the Death Rattle. You know, we've mentioned them a couple times in this video, so why not do them next? Skeletons seem to be the next logical step up from Deadwalker zombies, and I believe that's what I did in my last series of the Soulblight Gravelords. So let's follow in the same deathly footsteps. So guys, until next time, thank you very much for watching this, and remember that Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.